Entering the Mayo Experience.
Mayo Experience. Mayo Experience. Mayo Experience. Experience.
Welcome to the Pat Mayo Experience 2020 or 2021 RSM Classic first look, field preview, and opening odds, plus a deep dive into the stats. At least a first look at the stats. I haven't looked at I've looked at the field, I've looked at the betting odds, but I haven't dug into the stats whatsoever yet. So some early leans. I'll have the full DraftKings show up on Wednesday afternoon, plus some bets breaking down the entire field with my guests once we really do a deep dive into it. But I like to look at everything that's going on right off the hop. If you've missed the Masters recap show, that is up on Mayo Media Network right now, the YouTube page. If you have not subscribed to the Mayo Media Network YouTube page, like let's say you're an audio listener, and you don't do the YouTubes, I bet you have a Gmail account, please go subscribe, help out the channel, help me out, help out Fantasy National. The more we can do this, the better off we're going to be doing. And again, fantasynational.com. 2 events left this year, RSM and then the OHL Mayakoba. I guess it's just the Mayakoba Classic. Now that's in 2 weeks' time. fantasynational.com/Mayo is how you get your discount off that. I'll be using Fantasy National for my deep dive and custom modeling and researching the stats on today's show for the screen share if you are listening to that audio version. And again, if you're listening to the audio version, rate and review the podcast, 5 stars. And if you're watching the video, smash the like button and give me your early leans or early thoughts on the RSM Classic so far. I think it's pretty straightforward as we kind of dive into this, talking about the course. It's 2 courses this week. You have the seaside courses, but you have the seaside and it's Sea Island, Seaside, Sea Island, Plantation. So the first 2 days, the field of 156. This is a full fucking field. Top 65 and ties end up making the cut. So Seaside, you get 1 round plus both rounds on the weekend. That has Shot Tracker and Shot Link, so you'll be able to go through the app and update yourself all the way through that. The Plantation course historically has not had Shot Link data. I wouldn't expect them to upgrade it this time around. So here's what we're doing. The Seaside course is a par 70. It's just over 7,000 yards, Bermuda grass. The Plantation course is a par 72. Again, the field only plays this one once. That is also just over 7,000 yards on Bermuda grass greens. The key stats that I have listed for the week, strokes gained approach, par 4s gained from 400 to 450 yards, fairways gained, and opportunities gained. The big thing with this is we're getting a much stronger field at the RSM than we've ever seen and we're ever going to see again. Being the week after the Masters, a lot of the international players who came over from Europe to play at Augusta are basically like, yeah, why get on a flight when I can take like a 1-hour drive over to Sea Island and go play another PGA Tour event? So we have some very good names at the very top of this field. Like Webb plays this every year anyway. A lot of like the local Georgia guys end up playing, but you have like Hatton and Justin Rose and Tommy Fleetwood. Names you would never really expect to see in this field. Shane Lowry is another one who's playing this week, who I do like initially, by the way, is an early lean. Corey Connors ended up playing. The funny thing about this is the biggest comp course you're going to find to Sea Island is Heritage, which is usually the week after the Masters in April. It's just funny how this broke down, that Sea Island, the biggest comp course that you're going to find, is the one that's usually after the Masters. I don't know if any of this really ends up applying, but historically, guys that play in the Masters and make the cut and then go play the Heritage generally don't have a great time at the Heritage. They don't have great results in terms of wins. Kadira actually ended up making the cut at the Masters and winning at Sea Island. Other than that, it's all missed cuts from the Masters or guys that didn't play in the Masters. Generally, because that field at the Heritage the week after the Masters is relatively weak. Stronger than the usual RSM field, but again, now we're seeing an uptick with a lot of guys who did play well at the Masters, well-ish at the Masters, ending up in this field this time around. So I'm curious to see how that ends up going. Let's jump over to Fantasy National, though, and jump into the stats for the course this week and just kind of take a look at everything. You'll see right away, if we just sort by strokes gained. Actually, why don't we look at the odds? Because that'll just tell us a better sense of who's in. This is from DKPlaybook.com, or DKSportsbook.com, sorry. Webb Simpson, Tyrrell Hatton are the 2 favorites, 8.5 to 1, 16 to 1. I prefer Hatton over Webb this week. Webb has come second and third here the past 2 years, lost in the playoff to Tyler Duncan a year ago. And then after that, the second tier of players, Fleetwood, Harris English, Matthew Fitzpatrick, Russell Henley, Corey Connors, Jason Day, Jason Kokrak, Shane Lowry, Louis Oosthuizen, Ian Poulter. All those guys are between 20 and 40 to 1. And then it's into, sort of the usual guys who are, we think of like Henley and Connors, I guess, are elevated right now just because of their recent form and recent play, but they would usually be in this range of like the 40 to 60 guys. Poulter, Harmon, Kisner, Munoz, Joaquin Neiman, who has returned this time around, Justin Rose, Zach Johnson, Sam Burns, Dylan Fratelli. Mackenzie Hughes and Doc Redmond are both 70-1 at DK Sportsbook right now. I do not have access to DK Sportsbook, living in Canada. So I've actually bet Mackenzie Hughes and Doc Redmond at 60 and 66-1. I like both those guys this week. It's funny. We've been seeing Doc Redmond coming like 20, 22-1, 25-1 over recent events. Yeah, his around the green game sucks, but this is a nice deep number on him that I can actually back this. I feel good about it. You know how much I hate Mackenzie Hughes. However, this is still the best year that he's ever had. And now you're getting him at pretty deep odds. That, of course, he's already won with having a week off that, at 70-1, maybe I can get some good putt luck on my side. I won't be pulling my hair out when he starts making 70-foot putts. I could actually use a few of those this week. So I do like him here just initially this week as well. Shane Lowry was my earlier initial lean, 35-1. I think is a pretty good number on him with the way that he's been playing. Has generally plays better on Bermuda, generally has played well at Heritage in the past. We'll kind of run the deep dive on this. So if we just look past 3 months, I have it set to past 50 rounds, but again, over the past 3 months, no one actually has full 50 rounds. So Russell Henley, Webb Simpson, Jason Kokrak, Harris English, and Peter Malnati actually rate out the best in this field, top 5 in strokes gained total. If we look at tee to green, it's Henley, Keegan Bradley, Harold Varner III, Corey Connors, and Camilo Villegas rate out the best. If you want to add in the Corn Ferry, we actually have all of the Corn Ferry stats and results loaded in, but you need to click on Corn Ferry in order to find those because most people don't want to see those ones mixed in with the overall PGA stats. Some other unique names here over the past 3 months, tee to green wise at least, who kind of pop up. Laird, obviously, Burns. Neiman's going to be back from his positive COVID-19 test, which kept him out of the Masters. Unfortunate for him. Had a really good Heritage this year, too. Someone to watch out for. Spawn has played well at this course in the past. Obviously, the tee to green game is trending up. The Gim Reaper, 12th tee to green coming in. Then you got your regulars, English and Hatton and Munoz, guys you would expect to be up there. But Johnny, even in 8 rounds, is inside the top 20 per round on a tee to green basis. Aaron Wise is up there, who's been playing a lot better. I didn't even mention Emiliano Grillo because I just can't do that to myself. And then you have your other, like Russell Knox is 22nd, Piercy is 26th, Shane Lowry is 25th, James Hahn ends up coming in. That sounded more like Chewbacca, coming in at 24th. But I'm going to run the modeling I have for the Heritage, actually. If that's going to be my biggest crossover, let's go to Heritage. I have it worked in right now. This has worked out for me. Heritage is where I had my biggest score ever. So I've had this one relatively unchanged for a really long time. So it involves birdies or better gain, 10%, ball striking, 5%, par 5s, 5%. I have greens and regulation in there at 0%, just to get an idea of who's hitting a lot of greens and regulations right now. I thought it was good. Justin Ray actually put out a tweet. Actually, it was Brandel Chambly put out a tweet taking the stats that Justin Ray calculated for the strokes gained metrics from the Masters, and then some like old fuddy-duddy guy replied to that, who's like a golf writer. He's like, I prefer greens and regulation gained over strokes gained approach. And frankly, greens and regulation is a nice telling stat, but I like to line it up with strokes gained approach. That's why I have them back to back. I have strokes gained approach weighted at 25% this week. Shorter hitters, strokes gained approach, putting, that's what you're looking for. That's like the core basis of what you want this week. But greens and regulation isn't a predictive stat, because the greens and regulation percentage, let's say at Kapalua versus somewhere like Pebble Beach, is going to be widely different. One, you have some of the hugest, most massive greens where everyone's going to hit greens and regulation versus some of the smallest greens where not a lot of people are going to hit greens and regulation. Like a 75% or 70% greens and regulation rate at Pebble Beach is much better than like an 85% at Kapalua. It doesn't really tell you anything. It just, you would have to get greens and regulations gained, which we do have, which is a better metric than just overall greens and regulation because it does provide some context. But generally speaking, greens and regulation does not contextualize the courses that the players are actually playing, where strokes gained approach does, and weights that against the field. And sometimes, like just for example at the Masters, when we look at it, we're thinking of let's say there's a few holes, like someone like Justin Thomas, for example, and someone like Chad Campbell historically was really good at greens and regulation. So let's use these two straw men as an example for these two stats. Are you better off being Justin Thomas, who generally leads in strokes gained approach, or is one of the most elite iron players in the world, with the softer conditions that we saw at the Masters, that he could take flight at a lot of these pins and he was more aggressive going after it? So he left himself with a lot of short putts, a lot of actual birdie making opportunities. And if he missed, he was like 2 or 3 feet off the green. He has one of the best short games around, because the runoff areas weren't so fast that you could get your ball to plug, you get it up and down, no problem. Like, that's the kind of player that I would actually want in my lineup than a guy whose leave is like 60 feet away on the wrong part of the green, but he gets credit for a green in regulation where the other guy does not. Like, which player would you actually rather have in terms of someone who's going to generate birdie opportunities and end up with a better score? It's a guy taking aim at the pins in the softer conditions who can get the ball up and down from a foot off the green, rather than a guy who needs a lag putt from 60 feet. Like, he's not making the 60-foot putt. That's rarely ever going to happen, I guess, unless you're Mackenzie Hughes. But Justin Thomas could chip in from 12 feet away, even though he's only 2 feet off the green. So that is what greens and regulation does not contextualize, in which strokes gained approach, well, not a perfect stat by any means, does a better job of doing. That's why I like opportunities gained from Fantasy National. It gives you greens and regulation and fringe and regulation inside 15 feet, which is like a legitimate birdie opportunity. Those actually mean something. Being 94 feet away but still on the green versus 10 feet away but off the green, like, what does that tell you? Nothing. You'd rather be the guy who's 10 feet away. Trust me. Let's go back to the stats. Let's load the model in. Just to finish off, 25% approach, 10% tee to green, 10% around the green. Good drives gained at 10%, par 3, 75 to 200, 5%, stroke gains putting, 10%. You can fudge around with that. But again, stroke gained approach, good drives, and putting are really what you want this week. Basically the same as the Heritage. We've just seen so many of the same guys. And maybe that gets altered this week, solely because we're seeing a stronger field this time around, that maybe you can get a bomber or so that gets in there. So I have it set to the past 3 months, all rounds past 3 months, who rates out the best in terms of the modeling. We have Russell Henley, Jason Kokrak, Tyrrell Hatton, Webb Simpson, Zach Johnson, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, followed by Harold Varner, the Gim Reaper. Has Gim really been playing that well? Jesus. Let's see here. What has Gim actually been up to? 14th, 23rd, miscut, 14th. All right, he's having a pretty good swing season. 3 top 25s and 4 starts so far. Missed the cut at the Wyndham, which is actually another. The overall crossover courses, you got like Sony, Wyndham. Sony and Wyndham are probably the main two after Heritage, I think. He came 65th here last year. Didn't play at the Heritage this time around. Did he play Heritage last year? Wyndham 20th in 2018. 65th. Yeah. Gim, looking up, trending upwards. Been really good in approach and ball striking too. So maybe he's someone to actually give a look to. What are his odds this week? Gim Reaper, 150 to 1. You can probably find him even farther down the list than that. It's funny that Nick Taylor is exactly the same price, and he actually made the cut at the Masters this time around. Harmon comes in number 10. This reeks of a Brian Harmon course. Denny McCarthy will definitely be live this week, where driving isn't as big of a factor. Sung Jae on a short, just like Webb. Sung Jae short, par 70, coming off a really good week. He's going to be such uber chalk. But I do actually think there is a toll that goes into playing deep into the Masters. Then you go to this event the next week. It's like, I want to win the RSM. That's why I'm here. But I also, I was trying to win the Masters, didn't expect to come second and have that sort of pressure cooker on, especially because it was his first Masters too. Maybe all of this stuff is completely narrative driven and makes no sense. It's something that I tend to believe in. Although you know how good my picks are, not great. So that's something that you don't necessarily need to buy into if you don't want to. Let's just take a look at the strokes gained approach leaders. Russell Henley, Martin Laird, Keegan Bradley, Chez Reavie, Emiliano Grillo, Camilo Villegas. Only 14 rounds for Villegas. I keep getting on Villegas because he's so cheap every single week. Then he burns me. So he's been miscut 55th, miscut 23rd, miscut. So at least he's due to make the cut based on this recent trend. The strokes gained approach numbers are just really good. But look at this putting. Minus 8.5, minus 4.2, minus 5.7. Not great, Camillo. Would prefer you make some putts. But it doesn't seem like you can do that. At least on Bermuda, historically, he's been better. But again, between Gim and Villegas, they're setting up to be two. I don't have the DraftKings pricing as of yet. It's not been released. They're probably a bit lax, as most people are coming off of the Masters. Duncan strokes gained approach are still pretty high. We can just see just who's been the worst, the best. Man, Jason Kokrak has been the best player in the field in strokes gained putting over the last 3 months. That is absolutely mind-boggling. Wouldn't expect that to continue. The other guys up there you would expect. Todd, Malnati, Poston. What are Poston's odds? Poston was such a popular guy in my chat last week. 100-1. He's won Wyndham, played really well at Heritage in the past. This would actually be a week to go look at JT Poston if you were going to do it. The Masters, probably not the best spot. And he had been playing well going in. That's why he was popular at the Masters. This is a bit more his speed, I would think, if we're looking at it. I do want to just shrink down the sample size to last 8 rounds just to see who just overall in terms of the modeling. This is how Carlos Ortiz ended up popping up. Malibu's Most Wanted, Michael Ruvalo was on him that week, and this is how he did. He just looked at past 8 rounds and who popped out the best in the recent form, and it spit out Ortiz, and Ortiz was 100-1, and that's who he ended up going with, and it worked. So Austin Cook actually is the best player here over the past 8 rounds. He won at this event. We bet him at this event. This is a good turn. The simulator has been really good at this tournament. It won't be uploaded until the DraftKings pricing is out, but that's really interesting to note. So the top 10 over the past 8 rounds: Austin Cook, Sebastian Munoz, Peter Malnati, the Gim Reaper, Corey Connors, Seb Straka, Scott Piercy, Joaquin Neiman, Russell Henley, and Webb Simpson. Other guys, Kazire rates out really highly. He's 13th. I'm just thinking about back end guys. Lowry continues to be pretty good. The Gucci Man is any time that strokes gained approach really factors in. Neesmith and Taylor Gooch are 19 and 20. Aaron Wise, number 17. JJ Spawn, number 16. Right, so it's not that big of a deviation from who was all, except for a few of the big names that stick out. Seb Straka, 6th over the past 8 rounds as well. And to the person that pointed out to me that I keep calling the inventor of basketball, James Naismith's grandson, Matthew Naismith. Yes, I know that it is spelled and pronounced differently. It is a fucking joke, and I hate you for life for actually having the audacity to point that out. What is wrong with you? Do you not like, what's it like being you in real life that you would feel the need to go point that out, not knowing that it's a joke? Now, maybe there's something wrong with you. If it's so, I apologize. If not, give your fucking head a shake, pal. What else do we got here? Russell Knox, Kevin Kisner's always interesting. He's won this event before. This is the site of his first win. We know that he's played. Sawgrass would actually be on a higher end, a decent place to go look at as well. Kisner's played well there. He's played well at Heritage, maybe even Colonial. Basically, any course that Kevin Kisner plays well is probably a good comp course for this venue. Overall, ball striking wise, past 8 rounds, anyone? Neiman, Henley. I can't wrap my mind about who's going to be the biggest chalk this week. I would say early lean Sungjae because he'll probably be 3rd in pricing. I don't know if people are going to buy into Fleetwood here. Russell Henley, if he's in the 9K area, him and Connors are going to be super popular. This would be a week, though, where I think that with 156 players, guys exhausted from the Masters, it might be a decent week to fade the chalk overall and kind of build a lineup that looks like, I don't know, like Lowry, Poulter, Kisner, Neiman. I don't know what to make of Rose here, to be perfectly honest with you. Pan will end up being popular after a really good, and he's won Heritage before, played Wyndham really well. He's actually a better correlation for this course than he ever would have been at Augusta. Redmond, I could see a balanced lineup doing really well. The year that I won at the Heritage, I didn't have anyone in the 10K range. I faded all those guys, and I think 3 of the 4 ended up missing the cut. But that's back when you could jam in Bryson and Xander as 9K guys, and Cantlay. I think all 3 of them were in the lineup, and all 3 of them were not above $10,000. At tournaments like this, where you just have more variance in terms of cut line made, 2 separate courses, one might get hit worse than the other in terms of when it's a coastal. Oh yeah, coastal course. Graham McDowell. He played last week. Is my guy Kadira playing? He is playing 750-1. Kadira is getting a bet from me as a corollary guy. I feel like he's been playing a little bit better too. I think he's made some cuts recently, which is just shocking for him. And we'll take a look at McDowell as well. Just another coastal guy. Even Kuchar, maybe he can capture magic in a bottle here. He missed the cut at the Masters. Yeah, Kadira kind of sucks, but 750-1 has made 2 cuts in a row. I've made worse bets, so I could probably get in on him. McDowell, it's been a lot of putting. Although, again, he kind of pops up at this type of course. How did he play at Heritage earlier this year? Yeah, I missed the cut there, too. Maybe the time has passed for old Graham McDowell, but 751 on Kadira is not bad. What about Kuchar? Missed the cut at the Masters. He's just been playing so poorly. You'd think this would be a course where he would play really well. The numbers would not point in that direction at all. Maybe I'll have to do a deeper dive on this, but I'll get into that on Wednesday. This is only a first look as we go through everything. Again, if you want to do your own deep dive, fantasynational.com/Mayo. You get the weekly. It's $8. If you use /Mayo at the end of it, you're probably going to bet and or enter more DraftKings lineups than that. So I'd recommend that you get Fantasy National to give yourself an educated guess on everything. After you do your research, you can use your own custom modeling. We'll have the simulator up. So my early leans, I've already bet Hughes and Redmond, like I said. From the top end, Lowry at 35 strikes me as a pretty good number, but I don't know if I really want to go near the top. Kadira, maybe Poston. I'm just writing these down so I don't forget. Like when I said on the show that I was going to bet Dylan Fratelli first round leader, then forgot and ended up betting EVR instead, who withdrew. Makes me feel like a moron. So yeah, I want to write these down so I don't forget. Kadira, Poston. I like those two. So I'll probably go. And then, Hatton or him do really line up really well. I kind of like that Hatton actually missed the cut. He was really good at Heritage earlier in this year. Neiman was also very good at Heritage earlier this year, and he's coming on a deep number. I don't know how COVID-19 actually affected him, but again, you're getting a pretty elite player at deeper prices than you would probably normally see in a field like this. Or maybe it's just a time to go to Russell Henley. He's been playing so well that maybe you can go through with it. But yeah, I'll have my cheat sheet later on in the week. Austin Cook was the other one I wanted to look at. I didn't even see what his odds were. I'll look those up right now. Austin Cook, 100-1. It just might be a week to take some flyers from deep down the list. You know, you're gassed out from doing hard research at the Masters. Give yourself some long shots and hope one of the big faves doesn't end up winning. I mean, we saw Tyler Duncan end up winning last week. When Mackenzie Hughes won this, he was 200-1. We've seen some deep guys end up winning at the RSM Classic in the past. So why not again this year? Be a nice way. I don't think I've hit a winner since the new swing season has actually started. Although Cam Smith actually paid really nicely on the each way. He paid 19-1 to get his top 8. So, you know, that covers most of the week for me, despite my terrible to make the cut parlay bets and all that fun stuff. But the Masters is a fun time for betting. We're back to more of the serious stuff here. Anyway, I'm Pat Mayo. Of course, you can follow me at the PME. Hope you have a good week in golf and football. If you want to play in a listeners league, I only have NFL on the go this week, so go check that out in the description of the podcast or one of the NFL videos. Smash a like on the way and give me your early lean for the week, all right? Sub to Mayo Media Network, too. I'm Pat Mayo. I'll see you next time.
Mayo experience! Experience!